Namaste, good people. We are here chilling. This is a recap of election night 2025, November 4th, I suppose it was. I didn't go too far into November 5th because, well, I did clickbait it in my title, but it is also true. The Democrats just trounced this election pretty much everywhere. So we're going to go over how that happened, what happened, all that kind of stuff. We're going to move on to me being smaller and the information being larger. So that's it. I'm using the New York Times because especially for the races I'm starting with focus on here, they are going to be the most accurate for sure as far as information goes. Their opinion section leaves much to be desired for anyone but a milquetoast centrist, I guess. So we won't even get into that. Abundance. So New York City mayoral election results is where we will start. We are going to then move on to New Jersey governor's race, then general just about New Jersey, the rest of the stuff there. Then we're going to go to PA. They had some courts, that's Pennsylvania. They had some court elections, and that also went, we'll see in a strange way, because courts, even when they vote for the people, and vote to retain them, and they don't necessarily have parties, you can sort of tell what sort of party affiliation the people think they have, and they likely do have. And I'll be able to illustrate that a little bit during when we're talking about the PA thing. So then coming up, hey, Biz Cresty, what's up? My bro, we're gonna be doing a gaming stream soon, my bro. So PA court, I'll do a little explainer on like how sometimes you can suss out who's what and who thinks who else is what. Virginia governor's race, and then some Virginia legislature stuff too. We're gonna go over. There was a big one there. Spanberger ended up coming out on top there. We got Maine. We're gonna go into after that. Then we're gonna go into Minnesota. Then we're going to go into Texas, and then Colorado, and then California. And then maybe just a couple of little recap stuff, a couple little maybe opinion-ish things at the end, or maybe not, maybe less opinion and more prognostication or whatever you would call it, forecasting, guessing. Throwing a dart at a balloon, a wall of balloons, and seeing which one I can. Oh, what's with the city? Al Love, what's up? Yeah, good to see ya. So the city, here we are. New York City mayoral election results. So we see Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat, has won at 50%. Second place, Andrew Cuomo, who was a Democrat, but got beaten by Zohran in the primary by about 8 points, has now lost to him by 9 points in the general. So he didn't close any gaps. Sliwa was in the general here, but was not in the primary. But we have to remember that there were also many other Democrats in the primary. There were more Democrats in the primary than would have been an effective foil for Zohran than would have been than Sliwa would have been an effective foil for him in the general, as we could see by the amount of votes that Sliwa got. It feels like Sliwa got. He didn't have much to begin with. I don't recall exactly what he had in the. In his own, well, in his primary, he just won it. I know that, but Yeah, so I don't recall what he had like last election, so we could say how he performed or whatever. But to me, Zoran grabbed it and ran with it because with less people and Andrew Cuomo, he gained 1 point roughly, 1.2 points on Cuomo. So, and as we'll be able to see here while we go through, we have 93% of the estimated vote total in. We have the darker the blue, the more they went for Mamdani. The darker the yellow, the more they went for Cuomo. Sliwa took nothing, but got a bunch of votes. 7.1. I mean, still 146,000 people voted for him. No slouch, but in this, what is it, David and Goliath? David definitely slew Goliath, and Curtis was just kind of chilling on maybe a marble chair on the side or something. So, to get into the swing here, what I would like to say is we see, which way did I go with this? It's this way. We'll get into California later. So here is the New York neighborhoods that swept Mamdani to victory, as it says here. The blue arrows are the movement after the primaries towards Mamdani. So basically, like, boofed a lot, whatever ones went to the left, and then the yellow to the right, that is Cuomo's movement. Seeing which way people moved after the primary, what we're talking about here. So, from the primary to the general, the Bronx totally shifted, stayed a little bit the same. Does my cursor stay on here? Yes, it does. Okay, good. So the Bronx, see the nothing areas means it stayed the same. Some tiny arrows, but the Bronx, he took over the Bronx after the primary. He gained the Bronx like crazy, right? He also gained, what is that, parts of Queens out there. He gained in Brooklyn with the longer the arrows too, that means something also. Means, that much of a shift in whatever district it was in. So each one of those that's an arrow is a district, and some of them without arrows are districts too, because they didn't shift. Staten Island shifted quite a bit for Cuomo, though. Parts of Brooklyn did, and parts of Lower Manhattan really shifted for him. But it turns out here on the other side, they stayed mostly winning for Mamdani, even though the votes shifted there. But Brooklyn is a real story for Mamdani, too. And Bronx, see how it's lesser colored? He flipped that. Mamdani was able to flip this, as we can see by the arrows over here in the Bronx. That light blue was really going to go either way-ish. It was going to be probably the difference between a 5-point race and a 9-point race, or a 4.5-point race and a 9-point race. Talking about that Queens shift, though, too, there. Very light blue, but massive shift. And Brooklyn, massive shift. Staten Island, big shift, too, but, I mean, basically, people expected Staten Island to be pretty thick Cuomo. But no, story is Mamdani actually gained on it and pushed ahead quite a bit. And then even in the, I'll say we got Harlem, we got Washington Heights, we got, let's see, Morningside Heights, the Upper West Side, the Upper East Side. Wow. Right on the park. They really went for him. Jeez. But this is the thing. The richer they are, the more they're going for Cuomo. You know what I mean? And then, but so Zoran got a lot, but it doesn't seem like, I don't know, but I don't know too many. I don't know the makeup of Queens and Brooklyn enough to say so. Their economic breakdown with definitive, well, to be definitive, so I won't necessarily say. But in Manhattan, I understand it a little bit more because I've been in Manhattan a lot more than I've been to the other boroughs. But to me, that's the story going on right here. Big shift in some places for Cuomo, but only place he got big line shift with some smattering, but Staten Island. That's the only place he got big line shift. And it wasn't enough. The shift of Mamdani was bigger. So, made that happen, and he got it, right? And then here's what we see, too. Upper East Side. Results by neighborhood, you know, and Midwood, Cuomo, 57. We could see tons of this. We don't necessarily need to look at all this, but we can see a lot more blue than we see yellow here. Pretty much all the way down. We get down here, what is this, College Point? And that's down in... And then how different areas were voting. The mostly white residents went for Cuomo. No surprise there. Mostly minority, non-white minorities went for Mamdani. Where Cuomo won the primary, he went up. He was up by 17. Where Trump won, Cuomo was up by 42. Jeez and crackers. Of course. Let's see. Where Harris won, Mamdani 23, of course, but 42, nearly double that. Wow, man. And Cuomo was trying to distance himself from Trump in the campaign, saying he's the one who fought him the most and all that stuff. And then he didn't denounce his endorsement, which I think also helped to sink. In my opinion, this is a bit of an opinion. I tend to think that Trump, because he's like poison in New York City, basically, I think that just added, it didn't help Cuomo. It hurt Cuomo at the end. Not enough that it would have mattered anything. He was still going to lose by at least 5 points. But that's what we got. And by borough, Mamdani won every borough except for Cuomo wins Staten Island like a beast. Like a handsy, grabby beast. Let's see. All right. So that's what we got. I don't know that we need to keep this guy up anymore here. It's pretty interesting, but so possibly those shifts were due to people who were supporting Adams before, especially in Brooklyn. That's also quite possible. Yes. Yes. And especially in Brooklyn too, right? Because he was, yeah. I think that's home turf, and he was police captain and stuff too. And so, yeah, I mean, and Adams dropped out, but Adams wasn't going to do anything, but the dropout made people shift to other places too. And Mamdani must have picked them up. And I mean, Brooklyn, as we see here, yeah, a lot of Republicans in Staten Island, for real. In Brooklyn, it is thick Mamdani, though. Like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, he must have just consolidated. He must have had that already. And then, I mean, I think that's his home turf, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a New Yorker, so sometimes I make the cardinal sin of mixing up the Bronx with Brooklyn. Yes, I know. So then let's go on to yeah. Yeah, islands, sure. I know about good old Long Island too. Is a very although it's not New York City per se, but Long Island is also an extremely Republican, what do you call it? Suburban, the sprawl. So what we're going to next is New Jersey. State results. Actually, we're going to do New Jersey governor first. Jersey governor, little less maybe to say about this because there's not as many dynamic like faces and people that everybody knows. But Mikey Sherrill here beat out a really like more expected to win in the primary, like a more centrist kind of Democrat. I mean, she's pretty centrist too, honestly, but she was a little more left than this guy, Josh Gottheimer, who put tons of money in and was really just kind of like, milk toasty, extra milk toasty. And Jack Ciattarelli is, he basically said he will do whatever Trump wants him to do, kind of a thing. He'll go and do, if Trump wants it, that's what he's going to do. He's going to follow Trump's agenda. I forget exactly his wording, but it was pretty much, on rails, Trump train sort of a thing. There was a lot of talk about him doing a lot better than he did. She trounced him straight up, 13.1 points. I was actually thinking it was going to be closer. I was thinking it was going to be 5 points, between 5 to 7 points on the high side, and about as maybe a squeaker. So yeah, 56.3. So 13.1 points. She got 13.1% over. We're at 95% of the vote taken. West Coast here, leading into like Pennsylvania and stuff here. It's a redder area. This is closer to New York City right here. I think this is pretty much Staten Island right here. But it's funny that Staten Island's like, well, I guess, yeah, maybe they're like, bloop, we're being Republican with these guys or whatever. But anyway, so then, yeah, Trenton, that's the capital there, went really hard for her. And I mean, the story of Jersey is not a big story. She was expected to win, but this was thought going that it, like, not just me, other people thought this was going to be a squeaker / she's going to win by 5 points or so, something like that. Turns out she blew him out. And this is why I made my clickbaity thing, Democrats destroy Republicans election day, because the trend, as we keep going, we're going to see that they did really just take it over, and whether this means anything, this does add momentum to the 2026 midterms, but, whether it means something as far as that goes, we'll see. But it definitely means something. How votes compare with Trump-Harris? So Bergen, Monmouth, whatever. Oh, wow, a shift from, wow. Even where they voted Ciattarelli hardcore, they shifted blue. Every place in Jersey shifted blue, for as compared to Sherrill. No place shifted Ciattarelli. No place shifted Ciattarelli. So that's saying that Jersey's still firmly blue. I mean, everyone knew that it kind of was, but they thought the governor might get it this time, because also a thing to keep in mind, Mikey Sherrill here did something that's quite undoable in Jersey politics. Usually, after 2 terms, a governor does not win. It hasn't happened in a long time. I don't recall if it's been decades or if it's been 50 years or it's been 5. Well, it couldn't be 5 because the terms, but you know what I mean? What I'm saying is it's been a minute since that's happened, and she did it, which it's pretty cool. And on a year when there was this thought of Ciattarelli, who had a chance at winning one time but lost, But then again, he didn't have momentum because he was a loser. He's a loser, but but he did have tested, almost winning energy. So, and Sherrill was necessarily untested in a bigger thing like this. So, but this does mean to me more so that the voting populace is more, especially in Jersey here, in this instance, more ready to go blue, and that's where the momentum. And this is mapping results of estimate of what remains. So this is old news here right now. But this the shift. That is some real news there. And to go to New Jersey statewide stuff, we have, let's see. Oh, off-time elections are always different than general. Definitely, definitely true. That's why you can't really see. We can see where momentum is now, you know, and especially it's different than, not even than just general too, though. It's also a different game than the midterms, because this is like all these weird special elections. But in such a weird, volatile time, to see the trends also bucked in one way so hard does say something. But okay, New Jersey election results. We went over the governorship, and now state legislature too. Anything in white is uncovered. Is undecided. Also, one thing I didn't mention is one of the reasons why New York Times is actually very good with by the numbers stuff and by their calling the elections and stuff. They don't call it until the AP calls it. And pretty much the AP is like what everybody goes by. And some people call it early, and you know how you called it early because you called it before the AP. So they're not deciding that, they're not making calls themselves. They're going by what is the accepted and has been the accepted thing by both parties and the independents and everyone in between for a long time. So this is not opinion. There is a lot of opinion in the New York Times, but this type of stuff, when it's just numbers and just their apparatus out there, they are amazing. And it is why I have a subscription to them. Also because they gave me a deal on the subscription because I was going to cancel it. Wow. Okay. 53 Dem to 19 Republican. So, and this is the state assembly. The state senate was not up this time. Governor was, and we just reviewed that. State assembly, Democratic. That's where we are. It's sort of like the House of Representatives if you're talking about the federal government, whereas the state senate is akin to the federal, the national Senate. So on Capitol Hill in Washington. So we have, we're not going to go over every race, by God, no. But as we see, we're going to see we got a 2 here. We got these that haven't been done yet. And then we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, something like that. Then we got 4. Then we got 4. Then we got 2. So like right about now, we're even-ish. Then we get this buggity boom here. Then we got a little bit of thing, but then this matches that. So then we're almost unaccounted for against here, right? And then buggity boom again, and then there. So we've got a good, what, 14 to 20. So yeah, we got quite a bit. And then these, some of them were even uncontested, huh, for Dems. So basically, they took more. I don't know if everything was up for grabs because, yeah, there's 2 people per district. Is that how they do it? That's what that feels like, but I don't really know. I am not 100% if I'm reading that right, but the idea is here, each one of these, everyone in a color is a win. And the total number is 53 to 19. So they gained. I think this is, that's the midpoint. Yeah. But they gained. They didn't just hold, they gained here in the state legislature. And then Jersey City Mayor, McGreevy, who's actually some old creep guy. He was a Democrat. He was like a literal creep, though. Not like he's not a creep because he's a Democrat. He's a creep because he was a creep. I forget what the heck he did, some sort of sex scandal thing. But he's trying to become mayor in Jersey City. So luckily, old boy here, and I'll give my opinion, you know, if sex scandal stuff and you're a creep, yeah, where everyone's lucky that this guy's 2,500 above him. No matter what party you are, you're a creep, you're a creep. So that's my little editorializing there. Where else? We did New Jersey. Now we're going to move a little bit to the west. We're going to go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania did some things also. Now, here's where I actually wanted to explain just a little bit. That white line might be a majority line. Yeah, right. When they, I think, yeah, when they got to majority, definitely a blue state, but it is balanced. I agree with that too. Yeah, but I'm talking when you say almost all are creeps and compromise. It seems I'm saying, you know, the ones that are, really obviously so. So anyway, let's see. We got retain Christine Donahue. Okay, so I was going to talk a little bit about how we can tell these races and who these people are and all that. So, and how that's being voted. So we have retain Christine Donahue, right? We see that. We see that Philadelphia, Allentown, all these areas voted for Christine Donahue to stay. No was here in the orange, right? Now, I happen to know that these are the more Republican places in Pennsylvania. If you don't know that, the way that you can check that is by going back to, I mean, not check, hey, is this a Republican place? No, you're just checking, okay, what's the lay of the land? And you can check the lay of the land here by going back to this person here, this judge. This is a Dem, right? See, so we can see the Dem won here because there's a lot more population in all these areas here than there is. There's land here. Land doesn't vote. Well, only in the federal election does land vote. So Philadelphia, we see our blue. Allentown, we see our blue. We know this is the Democrat stuff. So then we can figure out that these are the same places that they voted, that were voted Republican. So the Republicans were trying to not retain these judges, if you understand my meaning. So that's how we can do that little bit of detective work there. So Christine Donahue, we see probably a more Democrat, or people feel that she would be a more Democrat-leaning judge, or maybe she actually is. Maybe she was voted in as Democrat or by Democrat. I'm not exactly sure. Every state does their judgeships a bit differently. This is Supreme Court, so it's vote to retain. I don't know if the governor does it there, or what, or how they are put on the Supreme Court. But after they are put there, their vote is these votes are to retain them. And then so David Wecht also, same kind of thing. It looks like the more Democrat, more left-leaning areas are wanting to retain Wecht. Same thing, I think, with Doherty when I looked at it before. Yeah. So that's what's going on there. Yeah, judges are, of course, are supposed to be impartial, but that's why they say, Trump judge or an Obama judge or anything like that. And most of the time, if anyone is going to have their own impartiality and shake down to that sort of situation, usually it will be a judge. Like famously, supposedly Sandra Day O'Connor, moderated a bit or whatever, and a few others did. But I mean, she didn't really, if you look at her voting record, and there's a few others that they say moderated on both sides that didn't necessarily, but judges do moderate more than anybody else, especially because, especially the ones with full tenure to life tenure, because then they kind of just sit where they want to sit. They just be themselves, I mean, of course, they don't just be themselves. I mean, Harlan Crow has a collection of Supreme Court judges now. But let's see. Pittsburgh mayor, okay, Democrat won there too. So this is all fitting within the 87.5 to 12.5. But Pittsburgh is it's hard to get more Democrat city than Pittsburgh. Then more judge stuff. Races for judgeships. They all went Dem. By 76, by 86, by 57 and 56. So no, all of them were, and then retained also these people by 60 also. So this is more Dem stuff. So you see why it's a bit of hyperbole, like a bit of clickbait, but not necessarily hyperbole, maybe, because Dem everywhere so far. We've only been in 3 states in one giant city, one of the biggest cities, big mayoralships in the world. It's and a lot of backlash is what it seems like. So after Pennsylvania, let's see, what were we going to look at next? I think we were going to go to Virginia. That's right, Virginia governor's race. Virginia's governor's race, Abigail Spanberger. Pretty much, this is the same story as Jersey. She was expected to win, but she was expected to win better than Mikey Sherrill won. And she did, but she won by 14 points, where Mikey Sherrill won by 13 points. So the trend is the same. They're very similar types of Democrats. Sort of like milquetoast, just past centrist, just past the centrist lefties, well, just past the centrist Dems, and a little bit left. Actually looks sort of similar to Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill, both very well-to-do white ladies. Winsome Earl Sears was expected to do a little bit better. There was a bunch of support behind her because she was quite a dynamic person, or is, I'm saying, still a dynamic person, but didn't have the sauce. But well, maybe she had the sauce, but it's not as we see, the wave is not crashing on her seas right now. Or perhaps it is, and that's why they're getting dashed upon the rocks. So, with Trump versus Harris, wow. Virginia, all the shift. See, the shift is telling our story. Really telling the story. We don't have to worry about the estimate of what remains because 95% of votes are in. But right here, no place shifted. No place shifted from Trump-Harris towards the Republicans. Every single place shifted from right to left, or at least from Democrat to Republican there. And that's the story of the governor's thing. It's like, it's almost the same as, I don't know the extent of her Trump sycophancy, but Chitterelli was quite the Trump yes man. I don't know if she's the yes lady of Trump. I don't know enough about her, but it seems that people were not complaining about that as much with her as they were just like, well, she's a pretty dynamic person, but Republicans ain't it this election. That's where I feel like we are. We're going to go now to Virginia state results. So we got the Virginia state results up there. Attorney General, again, boom, 52.7 to 46. Looking similar, but not quite as much. Old little face guy over here and old big face guy over here. Sir smiles and Sir doesn't smile. That tells the story. Right? Got a big smile on my face. Let's see. And then Lieutenant Governor. Latest results. Okay, so Lieutenant Governor. I didn't know they had to run for Lieutenant Governor. You don't pick them, huh? They actually run for Lieutenant Governor. So Ghazala Hashmi, I think that's how you say that. She won handily 11 points, almost 11 points. We'll say 10 points. 10.5 points. So again, she won like crazy. But also, I don't know if you guys heard about this one. We've got Dems way past that halfway mark there, 64 to 35. I don't know what the shift is. I don't think they have a shift map for us. Oh, but they do have statewide shift. It wasn't just for, or was that just? We'll go back to governor, Virginia governor. Where's our shift map? There's our shift map. Compared to 2024 federal presidential votes in places that have reported almost all their votes. Okay, so this is Spanberger. They're saying for executive position to executive. So, okay. So Trump versus Harris is mirrored over Abigail Spanberger versus Winston Earl Sears. Okay, so this isn't for other races. This is for the executive race, which is governorship. So there we go there. I think that's the story in Virginia. Because pretty much we saw the state legislature. Like I said, I don't know how many, but it does look like that's a pretty good amount. Oh no, but then we get, see, because this almost matches this, but then it's like pretty unanswered. Yeah, so they did take a lot of new seats too in the House of Delegates, and their Senate was not up for re-election. But 64 to 35, that is, I don't know if that's a supermajority or what, but that is close to it. No, supermajority. Yeah, 60 is probably a supermajority. Depending on the state, though, how things work, I'm not 100%. Every state's got their own stuff. Next, where do we go? To Maine. Now, Maine, I don't think we had voting. Let's see. I don't know if we voted anybody in, or what do we have in Maine? Let's see. Here we are. New vote, or okay, 2 referenda. Some sort of questions here. New voting restrictions. Question 1 was to require photo IDs for in-person voting and tighten rules on absentee voting and ballot drop box use, among other changes. This is a huge Republican point. They're trying to, make it more difficult to vote, basically, photo ID in person and no absentee voting and, ballot drop box stuff. Basically there was not found to be any sort of problems or fraud with any of that stuff. So, basically everybody, 63%, Oh yeah, they run, but basically piggyback on the governor. Oh, I think you're talking about the lieutenant governor. Yeah, I didn't know they run. That's so weird. Like the old, like vice president used to run, or they used to be assigned the second guy that one got it, or something like that. It's like they've changed. There's so many second backup executive rules that are so weird. But okay, so require photo IDs for in-person voting, tightening rules on absentee voting, and ballot drop box. So the idea is, among other changes, so there's more changes in that too. That's just a headline of it. But the idea is they voted for no tightening restrictions on voting, more voter freedom basically, and stuff like that. And luckily, since there was no voter fraud that was found in Maine, that was anything of significance. Basically, they just said no to it. That was a big Republican push for that. But they, again, right where, that comes up, 63.7 against. The trend is, not here for the Democrats, but it is completely against the big push that the Republicans have made here in Maine. They expected a lot better out of this. 95% of votes in. And not that many people, well, a lot of people voted for it, but not as many as I would have expected by their population. But questions, people don't come out for questions too much. But I guess they did here, though. Yes, they did a little bit. All right, yeah, here we are. Okay, and another more progressive idea winning handily. Establish new protective orders restricting weapons possession. Establish a process for people to request extreme risk protection orders against individuals who are believed to be dangerous. These orders would prohibit those individuals from possessing firearms or other weapons. This is like for when people are, convicted of something, or they have some sort of record, or they got some sort of a condition or problem that makes it unsafe for them to be, wielding firearms and weapons. Extreme stuff in general, and it won handily. But they always say the common sense gun reform, if you leave it up to the people are going to vote for it. Where all the polling is anyway. Yeah, and then again, really, they voted for that a lot. So, and so that's the kind of stuff too. If you just come off of a domestic violence kind of a thing, you know, and you're not yet convicted of it, but there's, you know, they want to restrict your right to use guns or something like that while, you know, you just something like that. I don't know if that's been talked about too. So, you know, only in the case of like these violent immediate circumstances where it's like you're going to come home and you have guns at home and you're angry as F because there's a this and a that and whatever. Like people can, like they call them red flag laws that they're trying to get passed, I think. I don't know if, I know that's a similar thing. I don't know if this is 100 the same here, but that's what they're talking about with this weapon possession thing. And again, this was another Democrat, like not exactly double, but I mean close-ish. You know, 63%. That's pretty hefty. That's over what the threshold for like 60% in the legislatures to pass big, giant, sweeping changes. The people want this kind of thing and don't want this kind of thing. But the news would let you seem otherwise, right? But when you see these kind of referenda get voted for, it's not all the people come out for it, but the people that care enough about it come out. It's still the same trend. We have yet to see any sort of trend that says anything Republican. And that's not even editorial. That's just what's up. Now we got Minnesota. Okay. So in this one, so Frey, ranked choice results. Fry rather, and Fate. Dwayne Davis got not really enough to like feature him in this one, but Omar Fate had some in 2022. He had some ethics problems. He was more of the progressive, but he had some ethics problems. He still insists that he didn't know about the donations being wrong or whatever it was, but it's been upheld a couple of times in the legislature, and the legislature there is not against his side. I mean, he's a progressive, so the centrist Dems are going to be against him pretty much, but in general, it's not an unfriendly place for him. So for him to be still, it to be still upheld that it was an ethics violation, it likely was. And but that was 2022. But again, I don't know 100%, but that's how the Minneapolis legislature themselves voted on that issue regarding him, regarding Fate. So I did a little research finding that out. And yeah, Fry was the guy who was around for the George Floyd riots, like it says here. It goes against disbanding the city's police department, but I mean, pretty much nobody actually wants to disband the city's police department. Although for a while they wanted to shut it down and just redo the police department, like can everybody and rehire. And if you made it back in, you made it back in kind of a thing. That was floated, but that wasn't, I don't believe that was ever seriously floated by anyone with influence enough to do it. But that was about the extent that they went there. Then in state senate, there's only 2 races and one each one where they were expected to win. And it's not too big of a story, but this is the Fry win here. And I think this is ranked choice. Fry wins 3rd term as Minneapolis mayor. Okay, so that was the end of all the runoffs. He says it'll be his last, apparently. All right. He's kind of a milquetoast centrist kind of a guy. He's not like anything special one way or another. He's kind of where Minnesota is politically. Not a mover or a shaker, but a holder of a placer, sort of. And that's Minnesota. So after that, what do we got? We got, all right, Texas. And why is Texas involved in all of this? Let's see. This is the one I was thinking of, is a runoff one. So here we have a runoff. This was, this is ranked choice, I believe. Oh, no, this is the district. This is a district. This is they have one House district up, and then they have ballot measures. Okay, I remember the ballot measures. They're interesting. And Texas, of course, did vote a little bit Republican here. The one state that managed to do it. Let's see, Christian Menifee. And very close second, Amanda Edwards. Jolanda Jones is also pretty close, but then there's a fall off, unfortunately or fortunately for what's her head. I have no knowledge of what her politics are. Carmen Maria Montiel. Republican. So there we are. So the three Democrats on top. It looks like there's going to be a runoff between these two because did she just fall short of 20? Sometimes they need 20 to stay. But no one got half, so there's going to be a runoff there. So that's about that. That doesn't really say anything, Dem or Republican-wise. And they don't have a shift map for anything because there's an already very blue district, I think, here, which is why the Dems are all on top there. But the ballot measures. So the technical college funding measure here is raise and designate state funds for the Texas Technical College system. 69% voted for that. In a time where people are trying to get rid of education in the federal government and all that kind of stuff, this is even in Texas, it's sort of against what they what do you call it? It's sort of against the trend of a Republican Texas, right? In general, especially the way that the Republicans are treating education right now. They're defunding rather than adding. You know what I mean? They're talking about getting rid of even the Department of Education, and the person that's in the Department of Education is someone that is actually for defunding it. So it's not being treated very well. But even in Texas here, as we could see, the trend is, when given to the people, to push for technical college funding. And that's at nearly 70%, with 95% of the votes in. Prohibit a capital gains tax. Texas gonna Texas. All the richies and the oil guys and the cowboys and all that. Prohibit that capital gains tax. Can't have a tax on gaining riches on top of riches for just having money in the bank, and can't. The money that's just going to sit there, not going to flow back to anybody. Why tax that? No, let's make sure that now there is a prohibition against capital gains tax in our state enacted into law. Texas, you're gonna Texas, aren't you? That one I don't like. That is the only trend I've seen versus the sort of left-leaning Democrat wave that's been going on here. And then capital gains, and then denial of bail. This one, I haven't been able to look enough into it to see how it goes. It looks good. It looks bad. You never know. Because and I'll explain a little bit, requires judges to deny bail to individuals accused of certain violent or sexual felony offenses, provided the court finds that the accused is a danger to others or is unlikely to willingly return to court. So in other words, you'd be denied bail and you'd be held pending your trial. One reason why this is great is because, people that are pedos and whatever, we don't want any of that. People that are violent offenders, sexual offenders or violent offenders, we don't want that. We don't care where they come from, what they think about, if they are on our side or not. We just don't want that, and we think that's horrific, right? So holding them so that they don't go back to the people that they offended against, very good idea, right? Although we also don't know. Denying bail in general, as a practice, sort of a thing that we don't want to do, though. Like, you don't necessarily want to have an extra thing that says denying bail in an extra situation. But this is a good situation if they're going to do it. So I don't know how this is written specifically, and I didn't do enough research on this specific thing to say so in an opinion one way or another, or to even say so in not an opinion, even to say so educated, like to in an educated way to decide what this means. So it does mean, that these people will be held in. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. It does mean that these people will be held while pending trial, though. So that's what that does mean. And so this is like, it could be a Texas gonna Texas, or it could be a little help against violent and sexual offenses too, and protecting families and victims. So, like I said, can't necessarily, I don't have enough on me to know about that one. So now we're done with Texas, and we're moving to Colorado. Colorado definitely went pretty care about your people here. In a time when they're shutting down SNAP, and they're getting rid of all sorts of anything that helps anybody that is downtrodden or in bad shape monetarily, food wise, all that. Federal government is hammering people like crazy, not giving anyone any benefits, taking away benefits and stuff, and denying claims that are like all sorts of disability stuff and all that, and made to crack down on it now, by all these executive orders by King Boy, Fox News Grandpa. Now Colorado and a lot of other places are taking it into their own hands or whatever and doing this kind of thing. So what they are doing here is, in this one, allow the state to keep $12.4 million in excess tax revenues that they got to fund a free school meal program instead of returning the overage to taxpayers. And the people voted for this overwhelmingly. This is good. This is the kind of thing that we need to have people ready to hand over stuff like, their own stuff so that they don't get an overage pay willingly, so that they can fund free school meals programs. That is huge. It's a beautiful thing, honestly. It should be done in more places when they do get overages. And they don't just shovel it into some place or give some people or create new positions, you know what I mean? And things like that, to give no show jobs and junk like that. That probably happens in Colorado too. But in this instance, voted for by the people, this is excellent. I don't think that could really be complained against, unless you're just some crotchety old guy that's like, I don't know, man, I'd rather have $500. But that's just my opinionating right there. Let's see. What am I looking at? I check out my Twitch feed here. Yeah, and you say bail should be on an individual case. Yeah, and violent. If you've been violent, yeah, I know. It's a. I don't want it to be a slippery slope about that stuff, but it's more like I'd kind of err on the side of a slippery slope, because you'd want to protect the actual downtrodden people. But then bail, but you don't know if they did it. But it's probable enough, but even by not saying that they did it or not, you can still be careful for the other people involved, and I don't think that's bad. And if they're doing it properly, that's all right. I just wonder that this is, I just hope this isn't used, well, as most things are, against, like it's going to be a little bit of nitpicky, like not on individual, because I think individual basis is a good thing, but sometimes it gets too granular to the point where like they're picking it by race because they got some shitty judges, or or they, but whatever. But that's Texas, so it very well could happen that way. That's my worry about that, which I didn't think of explaining before. I wrote that in my notes, but I didn't get to mention that. So thanks for, putting laying that down and made me think of it, Krasty. So increasing tax revenue for school meals. Okay. Yeah, we did that, right? Reduce the tax. Oh no, it's a different state. Colorado. Reducing the state tax deduction limits for households earning more than $300,000 to further fund programs supporting free school meals. All right. So they did a similar thing here. So they're reducing a state tax deduction. Okay. So they're reducing a deduction limit. So that means there was a limit of, I don't know what the limit was, but let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, the limit was a 10, right? So you could get this much of a tax deduction. They now have reduced that limit to, say, a 7 instead of a 10, or a 5 instead of a 10. So instead of getting 10, say, 1,000 back, you get 5,000 back, or 100 back, you get 50 back, or whatever. You know what I mean? So the idea is it's reducing the state tax deduction limits for households, but only households that are earning more than 300,000 a year. And that's to support programs for free school meals. So 300,000 a year household isn't rich, that's for sure. But they are people that could afford to pay a little bit for the people whose kids, or well, for the kids, not even for the people, for the kids themselves. So that's how that's going. I think that's pretty, I think that's good. And like I've been saying, that's across the trend in a more like liberal to progressive, because liberal's kind of centrist anyway. It's like left center. And then it's like, and this leans to the more, liberal to progressive-ish area of things. In Colorado, I kind of expect that to happen, but it's good to see it happening, especially in the, since SNAP benefits and other things are getting destroyed, basically. So now that we're done with Colorado, and we're going to talk about Prop 50, which is a very interesting one that I left for the end, because there's a lot of nuance. It's not just California that this is involving. And we're on that big screen. So we see California results, right? And I don't know if everyone knows what this is all about, but I will explain it. We have California, Bracken Adaka Peppa. California Proposition 50, election results, congressional redistricting. So the deal with this is they are doing congressional redistricting. It was not, they weren't thinking of doing this at any time. There was not a plan to do this at any time coming up soon. They usually redistrict every census is, I believe it's even constitutionally mandated that that's what's up, or at least it's federal law mandated that that's what's up. They do it by the census, and they don't do it mid times. There have been a few mid-census redistrictings, but there's always been like actual real reasons for those. And what I'm getting at here is this redistricting, which does also have a real reason for it, was triggered by a different redistricting that had nothing more than just political, like, hey, I say I need more Republican seats redistricting. And I mean, it's literally, it's not even, that's not even opinion. That's just what happened. Trump literally just told Abbott, who is the governor, and the legislature over there in Texas, I need 5 more seats in Texas. Get me 5 more seats, sort of like when he said, get me this number, 11,000 something votes or whatever it was in Georgia during his first election, or the second one. I don't know, one of the ones that he, supposedly everyone else cheated him. But the idea is, get me 5 more seats in Texas. So then the Texas legislature, which has a supermajority, I believe, making the Democrats just ineffective as it is, decided that they would vote in a redistricting that they believe will give them 5 more Republican districts. I think they've taken out all minority opportunity districts. I think all 5 of them are taking places of minority opportunity districts and are not going to any longer be minority opportunity districts. And they're gerrymandered so crazily that they're hoping that they turn into Republican districts. But there is a danger in gerrymandering, so it may come to bite them in the ass, because if there's enough backlash, and if the backlash is like it is in like it was for this voting cycle, if it retains that stuff, if Trump keeps doing like wild ass stuff that people don't like, and his ratings go, his like, because right now his ratings are the lowest they've ever been, and that's not opinion, that is just the truth. His like personal whatever ratings by all the metrics that they say and they have said for decades, it's his lowest, and I think the lowest for any president modern day, as far as favorability and unfavorability. Unfavorability is highest it's ever been, and favorability is lowest it's ever been, for the old dancer guy. Yeah, so that is really what I'm getting at there, is that a possibility that if that wave really just doesn't wash over here, but crests and smashes down on the 2026 election like the Democrats are hoping, if this happens again, then their gerrymander could just be shot to shit too. It could backfire. And that said, so can any sort of gerrymandering. So technically, so could this California one, but they're not in California going about it in an illegal way. They're going about it, well, it's not necessarily illegal, but they have voted it in. Texas voted it in, only Republicans, and in a way that, well, it could be said, I don't know if you'd say illegal, but against code, because it's a federal thing, and then the state, I don't know, I'd have to look into it a little further, but the way I understand it is I'm 85% that it is not allowed to do at all, and this redistricting, unless in severe circumstances in mid census. But in this one, the idea is the Texas legislature, all Republican, without any votes from the Democrats, voted to have more gerrymandered places for themselves. That ain't where it's at. That's not democracy. I am still not a fan of this sort of thing in general that California is doing, but I am a fan of it in the sense that they are only responding exactly to what Texas is doing when Texas went about it the wrong way. And they're responding in California in a way that is proper. They are leaving it to the people do you want us to redistrict? Will we redistrict in response to Texas? People, I ask you. And the people said 64% to 36%. Yes, redistrict in retaliation to Texas, so that we can have, and they're only gonna do 5 because Texas is doing 5 to match it, to nullify the move that is incorrect, illegal, not the right way to do things, against federal law, however you want to say it, regarding the amount of federal legislators there can be. Because by getting these 5 people, one thing I haven't really mentioned is, depending on how much you know about the situation and how much you know about the way the government works, these 5 representatives from Texas and these likely 5 representatives from California now, since this got voted in, they are going to be brought to the federal House of Representatives. So this isn't just a Texas issue or a California issue. Texas votes for these people and sends them to the federal government. They have the say over what laws go over the federal government, over the law of the land, not just in their state. These are senators that are federal senators, or rather, these are representatives that are federal representatives. So they have sway over national issues, not just state. And the margins are so small now that 5 extra Republican senators, 5 extra Republican representatives would cinch it in the House of Representatives for years. It would be difficult, even with the momentum that the Democrats have now, to surmount that sort of thing and to be able to get more people in so that they could have a say in the government. And then what it would do is also solidify a one-party rule sort of thing, to where there would be enough representatives on the Republican side that they could do whatever they want without even having to listen to Democrats or independents or basically the will of the people. They would just kind of, like they rubber stamping stuff for Trump now, they would just continue to do it, but with absolutely no checks and balances on it, or for whoever who is the next person. But then, it's pretty wild. So that's why they won't, why California is hitting back with this, because they're trying to match the 5, because it's a national issue. This way, if they get 5 representatives in from California, then it matches them nationally. But think about this. The Republicans in this instance has still screwed the pooch and effed it up, because now the fact that the Californians have 5 more Democrat representatives doesn't help the Texans that lost their representation. It does help to keep things fair and even in the federal House. But this action that's happening here in California is not going to help Texas and the people who lost their representation. So they've still done something wrong. And the fix isn't going to fix it for hundreds of thousands of people. And that's where, like this one, to me, I couldn't tell this story without the background, and I couldn't tell this story without really my opinion coming through on it, because it's too blatant, and there's too much just obvious, like, power grabby, gross stuff on the Republican side in this one, to not start out by letting everybody know that the reason why they're adding these people is to match exactly the number of something done incorrectly wrongly and in bad faith by the Republicans of an entire different state. And like I said, Texas is gonna Texas. That's the wild situation. But that's California. And that's kind of the end of all my notes, I'm pretty sure here. Let's see. Oh, and one last thing. I was watching the Majority Report today, and Sam Cedar mentioned, and I haven't really checked it out, but he said that Mississippi also to go on to the trend with the big Dem wave and all that kind of thing, and the trend just going that way, is that Mississippi lost its Republican supermajority, which Mississippi, that's freaking huge. That's a thing. So for real, that to me, one more little interesting thing that I happen to note down here. Other than that, I think that's a wrap. Maybe we'll leave it there and see about saying see you later. It was a good time doing this. I hope people enjoyed it. I'll probably try to fire out a couple of clips from it and see what people think. But I wanted to do a big election review because I think this is a real trend that's happening, or that happened and is continuing to evolve and wash across the United States. A bit of a blue wave that really hit hard. We'll see if it flows further and crashes into the Republicans on the 2026 midterm fight. That said, I'm going to get out of here, probably play some Borderlands 4 with my brother if I haven't gone on too long and long-winded it here. Much love to everybody. I hope you enjoyed the review. Left is best. And peace, everybody. Because you all deserve it. Much love. Giving the grid back to Twitch using the 80s and 90s vector and bitmap style graphics, as I always do. That's how we hack, baby.